So good job it's just a chat, isn't it? Welcome to another chat. It's going well. It's going well. I don't know whether you can hear me under there because that's a little bit low down to the. We need a gap underneath. You just excuse me. So it's been an interesting week. We've been hit by, I think, the tail end of the weather bomb in the US. It's sort of lapped its way across the south of the UK. They expected it to hit Scotland and not the south, and apparently it whisked its way up through the coast of Spain and across up through the south of the UK. So it's extremely wet. It's sort of it clears up for about 7 or 8 hours, and then it'll just rain for the next 5 or 6 days. It's been absolutely awful. Not the sort of training weather that somebody of 57 with a not so great set of lungs really wants to be running in. I do tend to get chest infections if I have a cold, so I try not to run when it's really, really wet and horrible and wet. Not because I don't want to, but because I really can't afford to have another chest infection. I've already meningitis got rid of my a lot of the lung capacity, so I do struggle with that. So what's happened in the last few weeks? Well, I've got my watch, Garmin 255, a really interesting step to take, I think. A lot of people saying, well, you're a summer runner and you're not you've not managed to get the sub 2 hours in the Gosport half marathon last year. It's not going to improve you. You know what you were trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. Spending all this money, are you really going to gain anything from it? And I have to say, it's been quite an interesting. It's been quite an interesting purchase. There's been a few things that have been just totally out of the ordinary, such as the heart rate variance score. During the night time, the first night, it went down to low single figures for 2 points for quite a while, and my average was in the teens, and that just doesn't seem quite right. But I had a cold, and I was coming out of that cold. I thought I was. And if you look at the heart rate variance score, it was getting better night by night, and now it's up to something more realistic. It's up to about 29 now during the night time, which is a lot better than the single figures in the first night. It's a worrying thought, I must admit. You look at it and you think, that's not right. That's that the brain's totally forgotten about that, about keep monitoring the oxygen levels and changing it. It just seems to bang, we'll keep it at 2 or 3 and we'll just motor on there. So that was one thing. The maximum heart rate was amazing. I've been running thinking my maximum heart rate was around 166, 167. I'd done a lot of training just before the half marathon on treadmill, and I'd got to a point where I was doing constant 166, 167, feeling I could go quicker, but not wanting to push it too much. And I was. The strange thing is, I'm following the Garmin watch, so I'm following Garmin training as close as I can with the weather, and it's getting me to run really, really slowly. Very difficult, and it is extremely difficult to run slow when you're running your first half mile is downhill, and it's nice and clear, it's sunny, and you're running downhill. Try running slow. It's absolutely dreadfully hard. It really is. It's impossible. Trying to keep that pace, trying to keep the stride long, and you're thinking, hell, I'm walking. And I got to the end of that first run, and I remember thinking, well, I managed to keep slow. There was a little bit of a fuss between the workout suggesting that it wanted me to run slower than 9.5 at some point, and I'd set the watch to run between 8 minutes per mile and 9 minutes 55. And then all of a sudden it was beeping at first as soon as I went faster than 8, and then halfway through it started beeping at 9.5 and saying your time's too quick. Not your pace is too quick, but your time's too quick. So I certainly didn't have any effort in there. There was very little effort all the way through, because it was only a 20-minute run, it suggested, the first one. And that last mile, my heart rate just went high, and then it never came down. And I've been trying to work out why, because there's no increased gradient. It was on the flat, or that part of it was on the flat. I didn't feel like I wasn't going faster, because I was following the watch and not letting me go faster. I can't see that my body battery would be run out after 20 minutes of slow jog, so it can't be that. And I sort of decided that the only thing that we can alter there is the breathing and the stride length. So I had a look at the stride length. The breathing obviously takes up too much battery power, so I don't set that on during the run, so I can't tell what that was doing. I can try and improve it at the second time, but we'll concentrate on the stride length. And I was astonished, because I'm doing really slow pace, and my cadence was at certain points was somewhere around 174, 175 strides per minute, and that doesn't match the pace. That sort of suggests that I'm running, it was saying in 1.1 meters stride length. I can't believe that, because I must have been looking like I was tiptoeing around at some huge rate of knots, but not going anywhere. So that the stride length must have been minute. And that extra work of doing more energetic, quicker strides, that was my thought behind why the heart rate had climbed and then flattened out at a higher rate, because it did seem rather odd that the cadence was so high, and yet I was actually running quite slow. So I had another run, exactly the same route. I did exactly the same amount of time, and got to the end. I'd done a little bit further, so the pace was a little bit more quicker. And I looked at the cadence, and I thought, 174 is now 166. So per minute, I'm running, a good 9 strides per minute less. But I'm doing quicker, and I've gone further. So that means that the actual stride length has to have been bigger. It has to have increased. I looked at the heart rate, and the heart rate really was quite flat. It did still have an increase in the last mile. It still jumped up, and it still stayed there roughly. But the jump wasn't quite as high. Well, it was nowhere near as high, and the jump didn't really worry me. I'd still like to know why it's there and why it's at that point. I can only think that I'm not actually, the brain and the heart's not actually getting up to speed as quick as what some people out there might do, because that first, that first half, 2/3 of it, the heart rate is in the low hundreds. It's as if the heart's just not even beating. It's not trying to get the oxygen round. It's not. It's as if it's saying, he's only out for a stroll. Give over. He'll slow down and stop soon. And it's only after halfway that it realizes, hey, this guy's not going to stop. Bloody hell, I'm gonna have to pump faster. I don't know whether that's poignant to some of the training before, because some of the training before was before the half marathon was. I was training a lot quicker, and always going out too quick. Always after 2 mile, on the second mile, always slowing down, always feeling lethargic, and one wonders if the same thing was happening there. The heart's, it'll slow down soon, it'll stop, it'll not tire himself out. Well, then you get to second mile and you think, oh bugger, he's gonna go on, isn't he? And the heart rate goes up, and I slow down. Because it's seen the effort, and it knows, hey, there's effort going in here. I'm in trouble. I've not created enough oxygen. So it's quite interesting to read the figures, and some people on Facebook say, how the hell do we read the figures? It's an interesting thought, because I know when I looked at it, I thought, I know it can help me run a little bit more intuitive. That's probably the better way of putting it. And it can help you run more intuitive. And one of the older guys on YouTube said, yeah, I've got my watch. I'm now no longer running with my phone, and it's a hell of a lot easier just to flick your wrist and look at your pace. And he was saying, well, I actually think that it's worth it, just for the fact that you're not lubbing around this phone in your hand, and I haven't got it, lubbing around the phone, you're constantly looking at it. I'm sure every 2 minutes you have to go, oh yeah, I'm doing what's my pace here now. Important point. Yes, it is extremely a lot easier to go flick with your wrist. I'm 57. I can read this. It's easy to read the figures on it. I'm running, and I'm looking at this. Last time I took my glasses in one hand, because I can't. It's actually very difficult to read the smaller writing. As I'm looking at it here, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got that one up there with the circles. So in those circles, you've got very small, what do you say, about 3 millimeters characters. I can't read those with no glasses on. Absolutely no chance. And that's probably the biggest downside, is that you when you get older, it's great to have the watch, and it does buzz you, and it does tell you you're going too fast, you're going too slow, and it gives you a nice colour to show you which one it is. So if you can't read that it says you're going too fast, you can see the colour, and that's a lot easier. But, and it's a big but, if that's all you're getting from in benefits from not using said phone and using the watch, then I mean, this guy on YouTube, it's worth it even for that, because at least it's telling you you're going too fast, slow down, and it is controlling your pace a little. I would say yes. I'd say yeah, it is, but it's a lot of money. Do you really? I've spent £250 on mine, even though it was from Garmin and they said it was £249.99, and then they charge you £250. Yeah, all those one pences add up. So it is a lot of money. Does it really improve your running that much? Yes. Yeah, I would probably say it does, because I don't know about other people, but when you start, when you go from, certainly from being a summer runner to being an all year round runner, I know that it's very difficult to start up again, and you do tend to try and go straight in at that pace that you finished at the year before, and it's, you know, you can't do it, but you do it, and you go out too fast, and you either start hurting somewhere, like I strained my tendon, I think, last time, or you sort of, you find a bit of a niggle in your knee, or something starts hurting, and it's because you've gone out too fast, or you just go out too fast and you'll die, speed wise at least, hopefully just speed wise, as you go through the training run, and by the end you started on 7 minutes 30 per mile like I was, and then by the end of a 10-mile run you're on 12-minute mile. This does make you think about your speed from the beginning and pace you through it. So you're not going to overstretch it. Not only that, but you can, if you can see the darn thing, see your heart rate and think, no, okay, we're only training, we're not in a race, let's pull that back. I can see that I'm in 177 heart rate, let's move it back down again. Now, it doesn't help when you're doing a really slow run, and you're keeping to the watch saying, slow down, and your heart rate suddenly goes to 177 like it did in the first training run, and you think, oh, I need to slow down, and you're thinking, but I'm already slowed down a lot. So there's a little bit of a juggling act to do during the race or during the training, and I think at the end you need to look at it a little bit more, let's say, stepping stone by stepping stone. So look at the heart rate first, try and work out what usually alters the heart rate. Well, that's quite easy. Your body battery, the amount of energy that your body stores in your muscles ready for immediate use. That's not always as great for someone our age who tends not to eat brilliantly before we go for a training run the following day. A professional eats 2 days before a really big training run, and he knows what he's eating, and he's eating for that training run. He's also eating for that day's run to make sure he's not too lethargic with eating the wrong substance, wrong type of carbs. So they're thinking forward. When you get older, we tend not to think forward, and that means that when we start running, we can run out of energy quite quickly. Whether it's in the second mile or not is probably a little bit of a good argument to have with yourself. But when that body battery starts to decline, apparently, according to certain studies and doctors, your body will automatically tell itself to slow down, because your energy, your battery is running out. So it slows you down purposefully. So that's one way where you'll start to slow down and your heart rate will be pounding away, trying to get as much oxygen through as possible. It needs to change fatty acids and things like that into energy, and that's going to take lots of oxygen, lots of energy. It's going to take energy physically to make energy that you can use to run with. So that's the first way. Your battery starts depleting. You need more oxygen to burn those other types of substance, such as gels, and it's going to have to pump faster to get that oxygen down. The other way is you're going uphill, or you're doing more effort, or you're trying to go quicker. So when you're looking at your heart rate and you're looking through that course that you did, and you see a nice heart rate increase, if you've got a hill there, you can immediately lay one on top of the other, the gradient on top of the heart rate, and you can see that you were going faster because you were going uphill. That heart rate increased because you weren't going uphill. Or you'll put it on, you'll put the race path on, and you'll look at it and you'll say, actually, I had a sprint there, didn't I? I remember feeling really good. I really started to pummel that pace. And you look at it and you see your pace increase like dramatically. Minutes after, with me, it's about 2 minutes after, the heart rate suddenly realizes that, oh, well, he's just increased pace, that's it. And the heart rate increases to cope with it. He needs more energy. Let's give him more oxygen to burn more energy. So that's the second one. And realistically, they're the main two. If you need more energy, you're running out, or you're physically having to do more effort, either uphill, or you're trying to go faster because it's a nice open area and you feel good. But your heart still has to pump faster to get you to run faster. So you need more energy. There are other things though, because obviously effort is difficult looking at effort, because like I'm thinking about the oxygen levels and the pace. So if you've got bad oxygen, so if you're not breathing properly, so if you suddenly forget your breathing and you start to breathe badly, your oxygen intake may be poorer, which means your heart has to pump faster to get the same amount of oxygen through. So your pace doesn't increase, it doesn't decrease. Your perceived effort doesn't actually seem any different, but your heart rate's gone up. And it can just be that you've forgotten your breathing, and your breathing's reduced the amount of oxygen in your blood, and your blood's got to go quicker to get the same amount of oxygen through to the muscles. So it can be that. So that's the third one. And then pace is the fourth one, and the final one, where if you think about it, if you do the same pace along a flat gradient straight along, and I'm doing, let's say, 170 paces a minute, bang, 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 nice and easy. If I forget the pace and I'm doing 180, well, it's probably better to say a nice slow saunter at like I did last time at 160 odd paces a minute. If I forget that and my pace gets quicker, and I'm breathing quicker, and pace gets quicker, the pace itself suddenly went up to what it was the first time at 174, 176 per minute. You've got lots of short steps, and it takes energy to move those feet. It takes energy to actually shift them in the first place. So now your heart's got to think about pumping energy down, pumping oxygen down to get those legs just moving quicker. You're not moving any faster, the pace isn't going quicker, but your legs are. So it's actually harder to run with a small step because you're using more energy. But then there's a point at which everybody gets most efficient, and then past that you're striding too far, and the push that you need is too much on the ankles and the tendon, and you're going to be hurting the ankles and tendons and using a lot of energy to push forward, when actually the most efficient way is a nice gentle push up and over in an arc, using your ankles and your calves just enough to utilize the energy to the max. So a short pace can also make your effort go up, even though you don't perceive it as being more of an effort. In fact, quite often, when I've realised I've gone onto a quicker step, I actually feel like I'm really, I can feel tired out, and it's almost like the smaller steps are there to make things easier, but they're not. They're actually making it harder. So if you're finding it hard, you're finding it tough, so you make a quicker step, shorter one, and you make it even tougher for yourself. So that's the other way, that the fourth way, that your oxygen, your heart rate is going to go up to give you more oxygen. But at the end of the day, it's all about, the heart rate is all about the oxygen going around the body, and your brain saying, you need more oxygen, guy. Or, okay, we can do with a little bit less, we're okay. So the first thing to look at, I think, if you don't know what to look at, is your heart rate, and try and bottom down what it is that's going on. Sometimes it's easy to look at it and see that, it's the gradient. It's the effort I did. But like mine, it's a little bit more difficult, because it's not the gradient, it's not the effort. So if there wasn't any effort there and there wasn't any gradient, it has to be either the breathing or the pace. Has to be, because it's not going to be running out of energy. Not after 10 minutes. I'm not going to run out of energy after 10 minutes. Absolutely not. I'd actually had orange juice that morning, so yeah, I should have been pretty much a little bit topped up in the morning, and I'd eaten well the night before, so yeah, I don't think I'd have been too I wouldn't have been anywhere near full energy wise, but I don't think I would have been almost empty. So it has to be oxygen or the stride length. So we can work through these things, and you have to work through it and try them. Give yourself a baseline, have a look at the heart rate. If it doesn't fall into something that you can actually work out straight away, it may be the oxygen. I don't use that on the phone, it takes too much power, but you could look at your oxygen, you could turn it on and do a trial run and think, well, actually the oxygen levels did drop dramatically as the heart rate increased. That's what it is, it's my breathing. Or you could do what I did, which is physically try and make yourself run with that little bit of a longer stride. Concentrate on the breath, but just to make sure you don't forget it, or just keep checking it that you're doing, in my case, a 2 and a 3, and trying to make sure that the stride is actually not shortening. And then afterwards, you just do a simple check on the distance you ran and in the same time, and you can see hopefully that you've gone further with the same number of strides.